So, kind of getting back to a little bit of the book, is
Sure.
what sort of kind of challenges did you guys kind of encounter trying to kind of convert, a scenario, command scenario into a book? I mean,
Well, yeah, remembering that we use the scenarios just to add color and vignettes, and keep us honest. So what I had the story pretty much plotted out, and I knew rough timelines and what was going to happen right down to the end moves at the end of the war. So I've got that pretty much in mind. What we used the scenarios for was to keep us honest with time and space, to make sure that I mean things were possible, and also to add some color and add flavor. So I guess the biggest problem was deciding what not to put in the book. Because there's a lot of stuff we can draw from the scenarios to throw into the book, but already we went from one book to three, and H-Hour is not the smallest of books out there, so we've got we've got a job of cutting it back.
oh, so there is more books coming.
Yeah. So H-Hour, Fire and Ice, and then I'll save the title for later of the third book in this trilogy,
Oh,
and then a book for the Mediterranean, and I've got, I think, 6 scenarios built for the Med already.
oh,
And I've got at least one, but it'll probably creep into 2 books for Mediterranean Fury. Sorry, one for Caribbean, one or two for Med, one or two for Indian, and then it's probably the Pacific is probably going to be 3, and then Baltic as well. So
wow.
there's a minimum of 9 books, and at this one took us 3 years to write, so we've got to pick up the pace a bit. And we're trying for 2 years, so we're looking for Christmas next year, 2020, for book 2, and then once I retire from my real job, because I turned 60 this year, so I don't want to be spending the next 30 years writing. So
So I guess so as far as like the scenarios, how far along through the overall plan? I'm sure there's been some additional scenarios and scenarios that have been kind of had to be chopped in half and
yeah.
some new ones added, but based off the overall plan, how far along do you think you are? Do you think you still got another 60 more scenarios to go, or is the
Not
end in sight for the actual scenarios?
There's an end in sight for that. Originally, I'd planned 36 scenarios for Northern Fury, and I think I've got about 40, 38, 40 out there for it already. Maybe just a little bit shy of that. I think it'll be 48 scenarios. I can't remember offhand. Um, I'm pretty much mapped out well into book 3, for scenarios for Northern Fury.
Wow.
I've got I think 3 scenarios left for the Carib, another 4 or 5 for the Med. Indian Fury, I am deliberately not going to finish the Indian Fury. It's got too many surprises in it. So that'll be a couple years downrange. And then I haven't even started the Pacific yet. So yeah, I don't know. You know, we'll see.
There's
But
more coming, I guess, is the real way to put things.
yeah, that's for sure. And I lay it all out in a blog on my site there, where we're sitting, and there's background documents that have some detail for each theater. They're not all out there yet, but eventually they will be.
All right, so I've got some OSAs, and I'm not really even, like I said, I wasn't really paying attention, but nope, they're not quite within missile range.
Yeah, not quite.
Charge, guys, because you're only going to get one shot. Charge of the White Brigade.
Yeah, that's right. So I mean, these little missile boats are a really good example of where we had to show some discipline in the book, because each one of the fights, and there's 3 little groups there, is a story in itself. Each one could be a book in itself. but unfortunately, we've got it all narrowed down to one chapter and an honorable mention later on. And
sorry, go ahead.
yeah.
My subs got off a shot.
The Ulston, yeah. He plays a key role in the book, too. But I think he's a little premature there.
Yeah,
I think those are Tarantells. They're going to get away. Or if they detect it, they're going to get away.
You know, I've seen stranger things happen.
Oh, they're Nunchucks. So I'm not sure if they've got sonar.
Well, the great thing about the command database is that we can go look and see if they have sonar.
That's
right. They've got ECM, missile, fire. No, they don't have a sonar. They're not going to hear that coming.
Oh, they're going to die.
Yeah. Four of them. So I don't think any of them have. Oh, yep, 4 Nunchucks. So yeah, they're not gonna. None of them have sonar. First, I thought that shot was actually going to be kind of a suicidal shot, but apparently it's not going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't think I've ever seen torpedoes actually go in that sweeping kind of back and forth pattern before, though.
I think it launched on bearing only.
Oh.
And it's searching.
I'm saying.
What are the speed? Yeah. What are the speed? 35 knots. Yeah, they're not engaging at all.
Normally, I only launch like when I actually have a firm target. I don't usually. I should probably launch on bearing more often, but
yeah. I'm like you. I mean, torpedoes are rare enough, and they usually give you away, so you want to be careful when you launch them. But I think I'd probably have better results if I was a little more aggressive with them.
Then I'm also the one that usually, I'm the one that usually gets a surprise torpedo because I'm like, oh, this is a air scenario, so there can't possibly be any subs in this scenario, and so I don't put helicopter patrols out for my battle group, and then somebody spots a sub like close in, and it's like, kill it, please kill it. Why aren't you killing it faster?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I agree with DM61 in my chat. I think we need a Central Europe Fury.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm not seeing the chat on Twitch here. What is stream chat? There we are.
So, did Joel do most of the writing, or did you do a fair amount of the writing as well for the book?
No, Joel. So the way we work is I build the structure and the story and map things out, and then he goes away and he writes a chapter. And then we shake that back and forth a couple of times. But most of the words to the page are his, and he's quite impressive at it. Yeah, the credit for as I say, putting the verbs in the book is his, and it really shows.
Oh yeah, I've read a couple of his AARs over there on Grogheads and Matrix, and his writing is just insane.
Yeah.
It is absolutely great.
Yeah, so I can't give Joel enough credit on that. He really knows how to turn a little vignette or something into a real meaningful story. Oh yeah, your torpedoes have picked up targets now. At least a couple of them have.
Yeah, except my ECM is showing them way far off. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume that's just the that is just the ambiguity zone playing tricks on me. That they're not actually over there. Otherwise, all these torpedoes are gonna miss.
Yeah, I think you're correct. Because they've turned their jammers on, and so they are actively trying not to be found now.
Yep. See, he just jumped back. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're. That's what I love about the command, engine is that you'll have a ship turn on its jammer and then all of a sudden it's 20 miles away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like it's not really 20 miles away. It's really where you thought it was, but I'm gonna keep this MSL Group 1 close to shore, I think, for the time being.
Yeah. You want to keep them hidden against those rocks.
MSL Group 2, though, I think it's time to come out and fight. Although they are kind of coming off to the flank. They 35 knots. I'm going at 32. I'm gonna have to get in range quick, otherwise they're gonna outrun me.
You got some penguins. You got some Mark II penguins. You might actually be able to engage now.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. All right. Fire. I'll do 2 apiece. I always get split of whether I should overkill one target or whether I should, spread out my fire.
Yeah, well, I'm an artilleryman, and we've got a saying: "Go big or go home." Getting rid of one target means he's not shooting back at you.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. So that's certainly certainly the way I think it.
You're going to kill something, you might as well overkill it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be. That's something I really enjoy about the game is you've got to make those value judgments. Do I squeak out for missile efficiency, or do I make sure I do the job? And depends on how many targets you got. Right now, you get a fairly target-rich environment. So.
Oh, and the penguin looks like they both retargeted. So.
Yeah.
Wish they wouldn't have retargeted on the same target though, but.
Yeah, well.
At least I killed 2 boats. And they're running away now. So.
Mission accomplished. But now they know they're coming, so you're probably right that, or better off. No, he retarget on that far boat?
No, he's not searching around for it.
No.
He might have if he was, probably one of those random rolls with the game. He could have targeted on either the far boat or the one he did, and fortunately they both retargeted on the same boat. But it happens.
Yep.
And because they're now splitting up, I should actually be able to get in range of the rest of my missiles. Because they're now going on cross bearings, and they've actually slowed down. So
nice.
Should be able to get the group in. Although I wonder what this group up here is. So is the final chapter and the final scenario of Northern Fury just called Northern Fury Arclight? I mean...
No comment.
Oh, so that basically answers that question.
Anything in the modern era has got to have a nuclear question in it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is that there's no way that there could be a Soviet, NATO conflict or even modern US, NATO versus Russia conflict without somebody thinking about it, if not pulling that trigger.
Yeah.
At some point, there's just no way.
All right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. You're right there, and we do discuss in sort of sidelong ways the nuclear question in several places in Book 1, and that discussion will continue. But I'll reserve comment.
Don't want to give too much away?
Nope.
Oh, but what fun is that? Inquiring minds want to know.
Well, they're going to want to know a little longer.
All right, well, this time we're going to go for 1 Penguin Mark II on that OSA.
Yeah.
And... no, there's a kill. And it looks like I accidentally launched a torpedo, so go torpedo.
I think you probably want to kill that OSA before that torpedo gets there. Otherwise, the OSA is going to start shooting back.
Yeah, I know. Alright, so we'll do a missile on him. Not sure how I accidentally launched a torpedo, but oh well. Torpedo's just slower. He's going at what, 60 knots, and the missile's going at 470.
Yeah.
Why don't we have torpedoes that go 470 knots? I mean, never mind the hydrodynamic question or any of that. We need torpedoes that go at 470 knots.
That's right.
And we need dogfighting submarines. You know, you got to be like G.I. Joe, right?
Well, exactly. The ones that can turn 90 degrees in 5 meters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we have those? With unlimited ammo torpedoes.
That's right. So that's what we use the game to keep us on the straight and narrow with is physics and time and space and things like that. Because Joel and I have had some long conversations, and the one thing that annoys us the most about modern fiction is silver bullets and things like dogfighting submarines. And so the game keeps us honest, and that's kind of good.
So you guys use the game more for the Clancy method then?
Yeah, or I'd call it the Bond method.
Or the Bond method.
Yeah.
Oh. Looks like my torpedoes at least got the their nunchucks to turn away.
Okay.
That is good news.
Yeah.
And it looks like at least 4 of them look like they've hardened up on a bearing.
Yeah.
Talk about overkill. If those 4 hit, there's not even going to be a Hulk left.
They'll be triggering in on life rafts.
Yeah, I don't want that.
No.
Although I guess with torpedoes, it's kind of, fire and forget. There really is no telling it, hey, don't target that.
I guess in real life, if they're still on the wire, you can do it's not a self-destruct, but you can do some sort of command that'll tell it to spiral into the bottom.
Yeah.
But as soon as the wire's broken,
there's really not much you can do at that point.
That's right.
I wonder if I should consider direct shade. All right. I will admit I am not reading messages like I probably should. Just gonna kind of go with it.
Some of the earlier messages are there for flavor, just to let you know that there's a war starting, and chances are the player already knows that.
Yeah. You know what though? Those are like my favorite type of messages and scenarios, because I feel too few scenario designers actually like put that attention to detail in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to hype myself up with El Dorado Canyon, but that's the most recent one. But I actually went back on that one and actually went back to actual op order briefings and White House briefings to try and format the execution order properly for that. Just on the idea that if I was going to do it, I at least wanted to do it right.
Yep.
And once we got some missiles coming in on MSL Group 2.
Yeah, I think they're...
Lost one. And, looks like I'm going to have one of them survive.
Oh.
At least for the moment. And that torpedo's turning around. Wonder, I've never actually seen it, but I wonder if torpedoes can actually, turn around and actually home back in on their firing platform. If it's within the search radius.
I don't know. In theory, yes. In theory, yes.
In theory, yeah. If the wire's cut, I would assume it could do, it could do that. I don't think I've ever, experimented with that, though.
No.
Huh. Maybe something I'll have to play with at some point.
Yeah.
I've never actually thought, because I know ships, I know collisions aren't modeled. At least not currently.
No, they're not.
You can have, units, on top of each other, land or ship or fighter, and they don't really actually collide, but... Yeah, probably a good thing probably just for the sake of sanity that he stays outside of that search radius. don't want to risk it if I don't have to.
Yeah.
Dogfighting sub, I know that game. It's called Cold Waters. One of the YouTubers that I watch, he actually did it's the Mighty Jingles. He normally does like World of Tanks and World of Warships videos, but he actually did a playthrough of Cold Waters, and he had just enough flooding on his submarine where it bottomed out in shallow water. And then what he ended up doing was reversing up a hill of a slope to get basically enough, height differential where he could then begin using his pumps to deflood his submarine.
Yeah.
And reverse, it was like a 30-minute video of him just going in reverse until he went up this hill just enough where, he had less pressure on his sub to basically, pump it out. And I'm like, it was funny, completely utterly realistic, but it was great to watch.
Yeah, it wouldn't have damaged the hull of the sub at all.
Oh yeah, no, it wouldn't have damaged the sub of the hull of the sub at all. And completely and utterly realistic, but again, it was one of those things that was fun to watch.
Yeah,
I never, I've never actually picked up Cold Waters.
I don't think I've played it either. I've seen it. I've seen a few videos on it, but
yeah, it's one of those games, kind of like Rule the Waves, where I just find it's I enjoy watching it more than I think I'd actually enjoy playing it.
Yeah, I just picked up Roll the Waves or 2.
Yeah,
which one came out on Friday? I just picked it up.
Roll the Waves 2.
Yeah, I'm quite a fan. I mean, it's it just takes a lot of effort to get through it I mean, I've started it up and played with it a little bit, but nothing serious yet.
Yeah, I never played 1, although I did watch quite a bit of like Tortuga Power play Roll the Waves 1, and I'm really kind of curious to see how aircraft are actually going to fit in.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be interesting.
If they have airplanes, they need to have dirigibles.
They do.
Oh, they do. Oh.
Yeah. I've seen one of the technology streams on that already.
Oh, that's I may have to pick it up.
And
I really liked what was it? Steam and Iron, which was basically their World War I game without the campaign engine.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed basically just fighting the Battle of Jutland in that game.
Oh yeah. Talk about impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can, in the function where you can build shore installations with guns and that, you can build air bases and airship bases.
Oh, that is good to know. I will. I may have to move that up higher on my list of things to get. It's just my schedule's already kind of booked.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Looks like you've identified a couple of the ships up to the northeast there.
Yeah, looks like we got looks like landing ships. Yeah, Soviets really did build interesting looking landing craft air cushions. I think it's the Greek Navy actually has a couple of these. What is it? The Pomoranic? I think the Greeks actually have a couple of these. Should probably zoom out and see what the rest of my forces are doing. Looks like I think I sunk one ship over here. And actually getting firm contacts on those now with 1 second old, so at least I know that they're generally in the right location. Gonna lose... Well...
I see Kushan on the chat.
Yeah.
Hi, Joel.
Hi, Brian.
Brandon.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear us?
I can. Yeah, many apologies for being so late.
Oh, no. It's... Well, looks like I got another group stuck on the shore. We were just sitting here chatting about me losing a naval force. And... So how's it going, Joel?
Good, good. So I don't mean to make excuses, but I've kind of been doing the real thing for the last few hours. We've
What
been
real
outloading
things
our
on a
battalion.
weekend? Like what's that?
Yeah. So I'm in a mechanized infantry battalion right now, and we're kind of shipping our battalion all over Southeast Europe. So loading Bradleys on 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 the Bulgarian trains has been an interesting experience. But
And by interesting, you probably mean bang your head with a hammer, like experience. I mean, I can't say
yeah,
I've
I
ever
mean,
done it, but I can't imagine it's loading a battalion of anything onto anybody's trains is an easy task.
yeah. I mean, the Bulgarians are good people. They're fatalistic people. Like they're hard workers, but we're dealing with layers and layers and layers of bureaucracy. So, but anyway,
Well, anyways, welcome to the stream.
thank you.
So
Thanks.
where did you get your start with command then?
So to be honest, I didn't. I never played Harpoon, which I know is the spiritual successor of Command, but I did play Jane's Fleet Command, and really enjoyed it. But it just always seemed limited. And I remember I tried my hand with an editor in Jane's Fleet Command of trying to build the Dance of the Vampires scenario from Red Storm Rising, and it crashed the program. And that's about when I left Jane's Fleet Command. And then when I saw Command, I waited for a while, but then I ended up playing it and really enjoyed it. And it wasn't actually Bart's scenario that got me hooked on the game. It was the scenario Goodnight Irene,
Oh
which I think
yeah,
Bart.
Great
Yeah,
scenario.
that was a great scenario.
yeah, yeah. So I was playing that, and that just got me hooked. And I'd actually opened up H Hour, which I see you playing right now, a couple times, and was kind of overwhelmed by how much was going on when I was still learning Command. And then I'd shut it down a couple times, and then I played Goodnight Irene, which kind of lets you build up to the complicated operations. And then I went back to H Hour and started playing it, and it just captivated me like no other scenario I've played. And when I got into it and started really experiencing the story, that was like the moment where I was hooked on both Command and on the story that Bart was telling.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I never actually played Harpoon either. I have Harpoon. I have the Grand Collector's Edition or whatever Matrix calls it, and I think I've opened it up twice. And mainly it was because I was looking at recreating some of the old Warfare Sim scenarios in Command, and so I basically loaded them up in Harpoon, and that's my experience with Harpoon.
I'm gonna sound old, but I picked up Harpoon probably the month it came out in '89.
Oh wow!
The original Harpoon box set was a lot of fun to play, but it crashed my computer probably about every 10 to 15 minutes of play. I had an 8086 at the time, so that was pretty much cutting edge. But yeah, it got better.
Yeah, did you, Joel? Have you ever played Under African Skies?
I have not. I've been intrigued by it. The truth is like I spend a lot of time on the Matrix forums thinking about all the scenarios that I would love to play, including. I'll be honest. I'll admit, like including Bart's scenarios. Like we're writing this book, and I know I need to play them all to finish. The series that we have planned. But the season of life that I'm in right now is probably my most stressful several years in the Army, and so I have to pick and choose where I spend my free time between playing scenarios and writing. And so Under African Skies is one that I've read the AARs for, and I'm really excited to play, but I've never actually opened it up and actually played it yet.
Yeah, that is the scenario that because they're all by It's the same author who did Goodnight Irene that I cannot think of his name right now.
Felton.
Felton. Yep. Felton.
Yeah, he did the three of them. The other one is Havana Daydreamin', which I think is his best.
Yeah, I like Havana Daydreamin' too.
Yeah.
In fact, I actually used when Command's first one of the Command improvement patches is where I played Havana Daydreamin' on stream, and that was one of those scenarios that just would not run, and I ended up playing that on stream one night. Yeah, but I played that. I played Under African Skies multiple times, which even though Havana Daydreamin's probably the better scenario, I just like the setup for Under African Skies, I think.
Yeah, it's a good scenario. I rebuilt Havana Daydreamin' to there was some broken stuff, and I put that on there, but on the community forum. But we have not heard from Felton probably in 3 years, so I'm not sure if he's just dropped the game, but.
Yeah, I think he did those 3 or 4 scenarios, and then he just kind of seemed to have just dropped off the face of the earth, which is really sad. I really liked his scenarios. I was really hoping he would do more. But I guess it's kind of a thing with most games, especially modding communities. I'm actually a little surprised that Command's modding community is kind of kept around for as long as it has. I mean, even something with like Skyrim, and which is definitely way more mainstream. His modding community is still going strong, but it's definitely dropped off quite a bit from what it was at launch.
What I think it is about Command is that they certainly keep on top of fixes, and they keep a lot of DLCs coming out. So trying to keep the whole community stimulated with new stuff, and it's just such a fascinating genre.
Well, that it's really kind of other than really Harpoon, it's really one of a kind, and it's not one of those games that really kind of gets old, so to speak.
Yeah. How's your?
So I know Bart has much more experience building the scenarios, and I much more play the scenarios. In fact, I have not tried my hand at building any scenarios in Command, to be honest. But I certainly, as a scenario player, appreciate the richness of what's coming out, both from the community, from people like Bart, and from the developers. Like I'm definitely a purchaser of all of the DLC and the live scenarios that come out, even if I don't open them for months after I bought them. It's fun to play.
I have what I call scenario ADD of I try to start making scenarios, and then I'll dive in, and then I'll come up with another great idea, and then I'll get distracted by a nice shiny new idea, and then I'll go back to the original scenario, and then I'll get a third idea and jump to that one, and then I just end up jumping around to multiple scenarios and don't get any of them done.
I probably have a good dozen scenarios in the build process at any one time, and it's not efficient. But what helps with that is it's all the one storyline, and it helps me keep track of it all.
Yeah, I've made a promise to myself of no new scenarios starting until El Dorado Canyon is done. Which the finish line is literally in sight. I can see it. I just got a little bit. My last little hurdle was figuring out basically the Libyan quick reaction alert aircraft, and basically kind of forcing the player to stay honest and not hang around too much after their strikes were done. But that was the last little bit that I had to finish up, and once that's done, it'll be actually good to go. All the scoring's done. All the units are there. All the scripting and my testing works so far, so fingers crossed it should be done shortly.
Yeah. What I found, one of the more rewarding things of writing a novel, and I imagine the more rewarding things of building a scenario like that, is the rabbit holes that you go down. Like I'm the kind of person that loves learning something new, and as you're talking about the Libyan quick reaction force, like all of a sudden you have to become an expert on what the Libyan air defenses were during El Dorado Canyon, and I found part part of writing Northern Fury, like the things that I've had to become a little bit of an expert on have been a lot of fun for me, like the state of the internet in Finland in 1994. You know.
Yeah, that was well done.
Wow, that's wow, and I thought I was digging deep for research. I mean, there's not a lot of like information like the Libyan Air Force. There's a lot of information about what the Soviets supposedly delivered to them, but like a lot of their units were like supposedly activated and then never activated, and it was estimated by like 86. Half to 3/4 of their fighters were actually in storage crates and not actually in flying condition, and like that was hard enough to find research on. I can't imagine trying to find the state of the internet in Finland in '92 was.
Yeah,
but I guess for a curious mind though, and I think most of us have curious minds. It just it's a good exercise, and it doesn't necessarily take that much time, but it's fun to learn something new.
Oh yeah. That's really where I find most of my joy with scenarios is it's the research portion of it. It's really where I burn out is actual setting up. And actually once I get everything set up, I'm usually and as long as I don't go too deep into the scripting, I'm okay. But it's really the research portion that I just love. I love diving into Orbats and becoming an expert, as you say, in Libyan air defenses.
You'll have to jump onto my website there, Brandon.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this Dash 8 is not going to make it. He is surrounded by red. And, yeah, I don't think his chances are very high right now. And we got another one. Oh, we got another Dash 8. Yeah, I'm pretty sure neither one of these really... life expectancy is probably counted in minutes. And that is an awful lot of red. So, how about this? I'm going to abandon Northern Norway. that sounds like a much more economical use of force. Everybody run.
So Brian, I mean, you joke about that, but that was actually the Norwegian strategy. Although, I think that the dilemma that Bart puts the Norwegians in is that the Soviets in the war that we posit forced the Norwegians to abandon Northern Norway much more quickly than their strategy actually anticipated. So the Norwegians knew that they could never hold the far north of their country, but their whole strategy was built on holding the Soviets for a week or 2 weeks so that they could mobilize and then fortify the Lingen position, and that the Soviets would never get past the Lingen position. So it's always interesting to me, especially with a game like Command that really models to a high fidelity reality, that we end up getting forced into the same decisions that in reality the high commands are forced into.
Yeah.
So
sorry, go ahead.
The Lingen position, as Joel was saying, if you scroll in just to the east of Bardufoss, where you've got looks like a pair of F-16s flying there right now.
Okay.
Yeah, you see the fjord that comes into about 30 miles of the border there.
Mm-hmm.
To the up and to the right.
Over here.
No, further northeast.
Oh, wait, up here.
About where Sweden, Finland, and Norway come together.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just in the area to the right of where your cursor is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a pretty mountainous area, and that's a very small entryway. That's where the Norwegians wanted to hold the Soviets, but as you'll see in the book, the Soviets didn't want to get held there.
I mean, from Norway's perspective, I mean, they've got a lot of mountains. That's not easy, and a lot of, I've kind of looked at maps of Norway for this, that, and the other, and it's a lot of just single lane, roads. There's not a whole, there's definitely not, say a U.S. or even Central Europe, highway system that we would imagine it. It's got to be rough terrain to try and move an armored force through.
You're going to get fairly familiar with that.
And I think why Norway ends up becoming such a fascinating scenario for Northern Fury and for so many other people who've built scenarios in Command is that it really forces not just the Norwegians and the Soviets, but everybody to look to domains beyond the land domain and to use sea and air forces and amphibious forces to try to get around the difficult terrain that is in Norway. And before we think that we're all very creative, like this all happened in World War II as well. Like the Germans had to deal with this when they invaded Norway, and the Soviets had to deal with it when they liberated Norway in World War II. So this has all been done before to kind of, if you look at Battlestar Galactica, this has all happened before and it will all happen again. It actually has. I'm working on an academic paper right now with some other soldiers on the Soviet liberation of northern Norway, which is basically mirroring what Bart and I have written in our book.
That's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and I can, from the thing that always gets me about Norway is that there's not a whole lot of bases in Norway. And even the Soviets have a whole bunch of bases in Kolob, but NATO itself doesn't have any really close by support bases, other than Scotland. Well, I guess Iceland now, but even Iceland doesn't have that much on it.
Bardufoss is fair size, and Bodo and Orland down the coast are not small. They're not huge, but they're
not
decent.
Necessarily small bases either.
Yeah. So but you're right. It's somewhat isolated, and it's a problem.
The ranges alone, just for say fighters coming from Scotland, would be kind of extreme ranges, even with refueling.
Yeah. So later in this scenario, you'll get reinforcement squadrons flying up from the UK, and from Lakenheath, and then in Bardufoss Blues, you've got more coming in from the UK and from Holland.
The 493rd Squadron, I know that squadron very well, thanks to El Dorado Canyon.
Yeah.
I tried not to dig into, because I went by the call signs that they used, and I tried not to dig into which fighter came from which squadron out of the Liberty Wing, because I think that would have just been too much detail. That would have been scenario creep.
So the 493rd, the Grim Reapers, that's the F-15 Charlie squadron. The other two are F-15 Echo. Can't recall them offhand.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and only half the squadron comes north. But later in the story, and it's laid out in the scenarios as well, they end up merging with the squadron that 57th Fighter Squadron that's defending Iceland. Anyway, they become the Black Reapers. But anyway.
So when did the Liberty Wing, when did they convert from aardvarks?
92, 93.
92, 93?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're just past the point where they should be flying aardvarks.
Correct. And the aardvarks in the Northern Fury series are in the process of retiring. There's 2 wings of them left. I'm just trying to remember the designations. The Alphas and the ones that belonged to SAC have already found their way out to the Boneyard. The 2 wings that are left are the close support wings that belong to TAC. There's one in the UK that deploys immediately to Germany, and one in the US that deploys to England.
Somewhere in the random bits of information that I have, I know I actually found the supposed deployment plans for basically where the TAC forces in CONUS were supposed to go when deployed to if deployed to Europe, and it was kind of an interesting thing, just where the number of forces that would have had to move over. You get a little bit of a glimpse of it, I think, in RSR, but that's really only that, a glimpse.
I think the technical term of it is a whole bunch.
And I think Bart's scenario, and the one that I've played that I think maybe models this the best, is Shield of Faith, where you really, really have to manage airfield space.
Oh yeah.
Where and this is what fascinates me. Like I'm a ground combat guy, where we can generally always find space if we can take over someone's farm field if we need to. But you can't do that with a high performance jet, and so something like jets deploying to Europe, like the logistics of actually how many aircraft can you actually stage in an airfield, and how do you get all their ordnance, which weighs a lot, how do you get it there in time for them to use it, is actually really fascinating to me, and I think something that Bart really has thought through and really becomes part of the scenarios.
So is that something that's kind of grabbed you, Joel? Is that it's just different enough from your day job, so to speak?
Definitely. So honestly, as I've spent the last 48 to 72 hours figuring out how to move a battalion from, one country to another, I'm pretty burnt out on that, to be honest with you. I'm not ready. But, what drew me to the military in the first place was this is all really fascinating to me. And so when I can come back, like the air domain and the sea domain, I think are different enough for me that it's enjoyable for me to sit down and learn and contemplate and play with.
And you don't have sergeant majors coming to you with problems.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think the same goes for me. It's just the air and sea bits that command models so well. Is just different enough, and it's makes it a lot of fun.